Yeah, you read the title right. EVGA is no longer going to be doing business with NVIDIA. We gotta talk about this. Before we get into today's video, I wanna go ahead and let you know about our new t-shirt design that's dropping, because it'd be really weird putting a sponsor on this video. No, there's no sponsors on this one. But it's our new Dad Bods and PC Mods shirts, kind of pulling together two of my hobbies, cars and Dad Bods. Don't make me start reviewing Dad Bods. I'll do it, starting with mine. Okay, so I've got my computer up right here. If you're wondering, these are just basically notes that I'd taken during a meeting that we recently had with EVGA. So to kind of give you a little bit of a background, EVGA has been in the GPU market and industry since 1999. Well, the company's been around since 1999. Just about as long as NVIDIA itself has been around. In fact, NVIDIA and EVGA partnered up very early on in the whole pre-Voodoo era and 3DFX era of graphics cards. So to say that this is not like kind of big news for the industry it's interesting. I'm gonna do the best I can. I sorted the bullet points and stuff I put down here, sort of have a flow to it. I'm gonna try not to make this video too long, but I'm sure there's a lot of you that have a lot of questions. How does it affect you as a consumer? How does it affect you as an existing customer? And I'm gonna try and cover all of that today. I say we because there was a few of us that were invited to a very, I don't wanna say secret meeting. It wasn't a secret. I mean, obviously there was an embargo regarding when we could make this announcement, and you'll see some other channels that have talked about it. We were invited to this meeting and we had no idea what it was about. I personally started speculating. It was very like no cameras, no recording, no nothing. It was very like, are we going to the White House? Like, I don't know what's happening, right? And so I had this speculation. I thought, well, maybe EVGA is gonna be making a AMD graphics card, because we've seen EVGA now make AMD motherboards. So what are we gonna see? The title is what we were seeing, which was a complete blindside, no idea this was coming, announcement that EVGA will not be making 40 series graphics cards or any subsequent graphics cards after that, as EVGA is fully breaking its business partnership with NVIDIA. Now, as we move forward in this, it's important to note that this was a direct meeting with the CEO of EVGA. His name's Andrew, by the way, and I'll probably refer to him as Andrew, mostly because I don't want to mutilate his last name. It was a fairly long meeting. We talked about a lot of things, and I feel like a lot of it turned into like almost trying to convince him not to do this, but again. So the bullet points and the notes and stuff that I have here, I'm gonna just kind of go through them because I want to make sure that the information's accurate and stuff. But it's also important to note that this is, as we're reporting this, there's gonna be a lot of allegedly, and there's gonna be a lot of like according to and stuff like that, because I'm not privy to firsthand knowledge. This is all second and third hand knowledge as portrayed by EVGA. But basically the relationship has been strained between NVIDIA and EVGA. And side note, this isn't anything that was mentioned there. This is not the first time I've heard this. This is not the first time I've had AIBs open up with certain meetings saying, man, I'll tell you what, it is rough. Oh yeah, it's a rough market. Yeah, it's a rough market. Yeah, of course, but it's rough being a partner of NVIDIA. The reason for that is NVIDIA is very, very strict with how they operate the programs. And by the programs, I mean being an AIB or an add-in board partner. EVGA and any other AIB is in the business of manufacturing and selling the graphics cards that they design using NVIDIA's architecture design. But NVIDIA is very strong-armed in what the brands are allowed to do. Do you remember the old days when we would see like the crazy dual graphics boards where you'd see like the Mars card? I think it was like the 960 Mars or something like that from Asus, where we'd see like these crazy dual chip designs and stuff. NVIDIA never sanctioned any of that sort of stuff. In fact, NVIDIA is the one that's put a stop to all of that sort of custom stuff. Remember when graphics card manufacturers, outside of the actual manufacturer themselves, the AIBs were able to add RAM? Remember they were able to add versions of their own that had more RAM to, again, NVIDIA putting a stop to all of that. NVIDIA has very, very tight control over the perimeters at which the board partners were able to operate within. And when that happened, as far as I'm concerned, that sort of was the death of the enthusiast market, if you will. When enthusiasts running these companies and designing this stuff were able to kind of go, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we, and then they would do it. Well, NVIDIA doesn't allow that anymore. And so that's why you've seen a lot of these really custom, and when I say custom, I don't mean like Kingpin. Yes, Kingpin is a custom power delivery design and such, but in terms of the core design and the RAM layout and all, that's all very tied down and strict within the NVIDIA partner program. When you'd see these crazy custom boards that had dual GPU designs and stacked boards. Remember when they tried to come up, when I say they, I mean just custom designers would come up with a stacked PCB was essentially two graphics cards that had an interconnect and then one PCIe. You saw that crazy stuff that you try and think would have fun and innovate and move the market forward. And no, all of that was shut down by NVIDIA. And that's not EVGA saying that, that's just what I know from the decade I've been doing this and having a lot of off the record conversations with different people and just how difficult it's been to be an NVIDIA partner. EVGA also sharing that sentiment, very difficult to be an NVIDIA partner. And what do I mean by that? When you're in the business of creating graphics cards on the back of another company, being NVIDIA in this case, the AIBs were often the last to know when they were being launched, the last to know what they were gonna cost, the last to know what basically anything Jensen was gonna get on stage and say. I cannot tell you how many times I've had conversations with market reps that told me they found out the same time we did. Now you would think a company like EVGA would be some of the first to know. I can tell you right now, more often than not, we as reviewers get the drivers before the AIBs do. They have functioning working cards because they have schematics they're working within. Functionally they work, but in terms of being able to like see their true potential, and it's the software that requires to unlock that, the drivers and such, they don't even have access to them. I'm about to knock that over. They don't even have access to them. I can't tell you how many times it's been like, hey, do you have a driver? It's like, well, I have a press driver. And it's like, okay, because we have nothing. And that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy to me, to think that NVIDIA would put partners that in the dark. And I think it's about leak protection, leak control, honestly. I think that's what the reason is. And when they control the drivers and such by getting them to the press partners, like us and Linus and Gamers Nexus and Paul and Kyle and Hardware Canucks and all of them, they at least know at least, okay, moving forward from here, there's probably gonna be some leaks that are make their way out, but it's within a very controlled environment where it's very close to launch, whereas the AIBs are building boards probably months ahead of time. So it's about, I'm gonna knock this over, I swear. It's about leak control, I have no doubt. But imagine trying to run your business on that. Because the other thing that there was an unknown is what's the allocation gonna be? Remember, NVIDIA has its partners, and it has to divvy up the stuff, in this case, the cores, amongst its partners. Now you're gonna have your favorites, you're gonna have your high performers, the brands that sell more in certain markets, and you're gonna have your underperformers, maybe brands that don't sell as much. You never know exactly what you're gonna get, especially over the last couple of years with how constrained things were. Imagine trying to run a business on not knowing what you're gonna have and when you're gonna have it and even what's it gonna cost. So you can imagine if you don't know how much of it you're getting, how can you put together a business plan to keep your business running? Now, one of the things you have to understand too, it's a very competitive market. You've got a lot of brands out there making graphics cards, and they're all competing. And so one of the things that you have to do is you have to try and price position yourself so that you can still stay afloat and make ends meet in terms of operating costs of your company. But there's not a lot of margin in graphics cards. I don't think a lot of people realize that when it comes to the actual profit margins of graphics, it's very low. If you are an AIB, let's say EVGA, and you're selling on Amazon, and you're selling at Best Buy, and you're selling at Micro Center, and you're selling at what other, I guess, Newegg or whatever other retailers there are, there's a lot of time and money and cost and effort and advertising that goes into each one of those outlets. And each one of those outlets get a piece of the cost too. So you see your margin just gets thinner and thinner and thinner. That's the cost of doing business. But what happens when the company at which you're partnered with starts undercutting you? What do you do then? Because that's exactly what NVIDIA is doing right now. And this is one of the principles that EVGA is basing its decision upon, is that NVIDIA is now competing with its own partners. Now, this is something that myself and other reviewers were concerned about back in 2016 when we were in Austin, Texas for the Pascal launch, when they first launched the very first Founders Edition card with the 10 series. We were very concerned, like, what does this mean for their partners? Does this mean NVIDIA is now doing business against the people they're selling the core to, which seemed like a very interesting conflict of interest. If I were a board partner, I'd be kind of concerned if the person I'm buying GPUs, and by GPUs I mean the core, from is now in business competing with me. What does that relationship look like? When the Pascal launch happened, there was a lot of brands like reviewers and other written articles, and tons of people, including myself, said, hey, this is scary. Does it mean NVIDIA is trying to kind of eventually cut out the AIB and become their own retailer? And basically, NVIDIA responded to a lot of us saying, you guys don't know what you're talking about. These are very limited boards, they're very limited runs. We're not gonna be doing this full time. Well, then Cologne, Germany, and 20 series came around with the Founders Edition that was available full time. When that showed NVIDIA's true colors, about even being honest, came out, and showed that NVIDIA was absolutely in business against the AIBs from that moment forward. Now, the Founders Edition cards typically were the ones that were at quote unquote MSRP. Let me rewind. The Founders Edition cards back in 10 series were $100 more than MSRP. The 20 series came around and that was when MSRP and Founders cost became the same. Typically MSRP is the lowest cost. So now as a board partner, you're in a very precarious position of trying to create a board that is quote unquote better because you want to improve upon the design. Typically it was cooling and power delivery, but how are you going to do that against a company that can always build the board cheaper than you because there is no sales to themselves. They have the cost of producing the product, the GPU core, and that it can now manufacture against and say, hey, we just have the cost of materials and manufacturing it, whereas they don't have any markup to themselves, if that makes sense. So they can always build it cheaper than the AIBs. Well, with all the cost reductions and cost slashing happening right now with graphics cards, this is, as of today of filming this video, this is an image taken from Best Buy. You can see that right now a 3090 Ti Founders Edition is for $1,099. That is $900 below the MSRP of $1,999. Pretty good deal. I think most people would agree, given if the $2,000 was ever actually worth it. This is the price of for the Win 3 card, which is currently showing unavailable. Now you know why, and we'll explain that supply chain in the next section of this video. $1,399. $300 difference. The reason for that is the fact that there's already a loss. I asked EVGA, I said, is there a loss at that price? Does $1,399 to manufacture a 3090 Ti for the Win 3 lose you money? And the answer was yes. Because all of this price slashing, every GPU sold right now is a loss for the AIBs. Is $1099 a loss for NVIDIA? I don't know. I don't know what their cost to produce the card is. But this is a direct example of, again, what EVGA is explaining, an undermining, a disrespect, a non-mutual agreement, strong arm tactics, play ball by NVIDIA's rules, or they're gonna screw you, and then they end up screwing you anyway with pricing like this. Because it is the cheapest 30 series, 3090 Ti on the market, period, in terms of compared to the AIBs. So NVIDIA, being in the precarious position of obviously having a lot of 30 series to offsell, will absolutely smack the face of all their partners just to get back some of that cost. So whereas EVGA's principles kind of stand is all of those things I've already explained. Not knowing when the product is coming, when it's gonna launch, how much is it gonna cost, when's it gonna be available, not even getting drivers before reviewers. It's kind of like a bad relationship that you finally just had enough of. We specifically asked EVGA, okay, what does this mean then? What's the future of EVGA? Because now it sounds like, one, maybe they should partner up with another brand. AMD, Intel, sell the company. What's the future? EVGA not selling graphics cards, they're just E at that point. There's no more VGA. EVGA always stood for Extreme Video Graphics Adapter, right? So that's what E was. It was always extreme. Now just extreme. We're extremely not going to be selling graphics cards anymore. So Andrew said he has zero interest in selling the company. He will not be selling the company at all. I mean, apparently they own outright the building that they're in. Their overhead costs are very low. It's not like it's going to be a sinking ship or anything. This is a very calculated decision they've decided to make, where apparently, allegedly, the terrible relationship and strained relationship that exists between NVIDIA and EVGA is just not feasible anymore. And that's the takeaway from the meeting. Andrew's fear, if he were to sell the company, is what does the future leadership of the company do? Do they just then start making mediocre product? Do they just start making bad decisions that no longer go with the last 22 years of principle and philosophy within the company are? Because you have to admit, like there's no brand I can mention where people don't have a problem with it. So that aside, EVGA has had one of the best warranty programs, the Step Up program, standing by their product, US-based repair centers. Look, you asked anyone about EVGA's warranty and RMA process, you're gonna find outliers where people that have had problems. That exists in every company. But overall, it's been positive. And I feel like the industry's losing that, and that really sort of sucks. So what does this mean now if you're a current 30 series owner that's still under warranty, or let's just say you just literally, today you bought a 30 series EVGA card, and you've got a 3-year warranty or whatever the warranty is on that card, and you're like, crap, what does that mean for my warranty? I asked that question specifically. There's a formula that they use because they have massive amounts of data of what are the yields, what are the failure rates, what's the likelihood that you're going to have to warranty a product and how much of it are you gonna have to warranty. They will continue selling 30 series cards that they currently have in inventory until they're gone. And however long that lasts is gonna depend on, again, what's current pricing gonna do, what's the availability of 40 series gonna look like, how many people are just gonna say, screw 40 series, what's the price? So they could be gone very, very soon, or it could take some time depending on what that backlog or pipeline looks like of inventory that they have sitting there. I can tell you that apparently, right now, they don't have any 30 series coming in from NVIDIA right now, because NVIDIA is obviously aware of all of this. It's not like we're notifying NVIDIA of this breakup. They already know. That's why, you're not going to see EVGA's name on any 40 series stuff. So it's important that you guys, if you're waiting for 40 series EVGA stuff, it's not coming. So anyway, 30 series, they have a formula that they're gonna be holding back product to have on hand specifically for warranty issues. So your RMA is still good, your warranty is still good. Hopefully the formula is accurate enough to where, let's say 2 years and 10 months from now, you have a 3090 that dies, they'll have a warranty replacement for you or something. I hope it doesn't turn into there are more RMAs than there are backlogs / reserves. I really hope they're on the ball on that one, because that can turn into a really ugly situation. But the future of EVGA looks like they're gonna really focus on their other arms. Remember, EVGA is not just graphics. They've got power supplies. EVGA is very passionate about its power supplies. The EVGA as a brand really wants to focus on power delivery. And hey, that might be a better industry if 40 series demands what we're seeing it might demand in terms of power delivery. That might be a smart move. There's gonna be a lot of people who need to upgrade their power supplies with 40 series. We already know that. They've got their peripherals, like keyboards and mice, and the very small portion of the peripherals though is like capture cards, even they had sound cards for a little while there. And motherboards. Motherboards is also not a huge market for them, but they are gonna have Intel motherboards, AMD motherboards, which we've already mentioned, Dark Kingpin, all that sort of stuff. But to kind of recap this, I feel like the industry is unfortunately losing a very important key player in the market when it comes to how much EVGA really stood by its product. I mean, I've been a customer of EVGA since like 2003, nearly 20 years. So to me, it's like, I know I left that meeting, which ended up lasting almost 4 hours, going, man, why do I feel like I just went through like a divorce mediation? It was really weird. I've never been through divorce mediation, by the way. I'm still married, so I've only been married one time, but never. But anyway, I imagine that's what it would feel like, just emotionally, just drained of going, okay, now we gotta comprehend and process and, I almost said decompose this info, whatever. Poop it out into this video for you guys to kind of understand. But it kind of makes me feel bad for the industry, because the step-up program, no other brands did anything like the step-up program, where you had 90 days where people bought a graphics card and there was something new that came out or you wanted to upgrade it. You could get like full cost of that card back towards a new card. Like no other brand ever did anything like that. It was huge. And EVGA undoubtedly sold like the most product in North America out of any brand. It's weird. It's weird to think that there won't be on retail shelves anywhere 40 series EVGA cards, which are always a huge partner. To me, it feels like if NVIDIA really valued this relationship, they would have never let it get to this point. But if the takeaway from this meeting was that the leadership didn't value it, or they didn't hold the same value of this relationship that EVGA did. And it became allegedly very one-sided, very controlling, borderline abusive, it sounds like. And I'm using the term abusive. They didn't say that. That's the term I'm using based on just off the record, anonymous discussions I've had with other people in the industry of what it's like to work with that brand. But you know what? If NVIDIA is really working towards the model of being their own brand, selling their cards only, maybe they don't care. Maybe at the end of the day, this is a sigh of relief for them, because there's that many more cores they have to build their own cards and to spread out amongst allocation, because basically this is kind of like, that many GPU cores are now going to be available to other AIBs who might now be rejoicing because the allocation could go up. But I think it's a bad move to ever think it's okay to lose a partner, especially one as large and has been around as long as NVIDIA has been around. That's going to have a ripple through the industry. Is it going to affect the bottom line of anyone? Is it going to affect you as a consumer? Only time will tell on that one. So anyway, there you go. That's the crazy news. If you've got a 30 series graphics card, or you're planning on buying one, I think people might honestly be shopping for one right now too, saying, hey, I kind of want one of the last hurrahs of EVGA. You never know. That'd be scary because again, you really have to hope that they're doing the logistics side of things properly to have a card on hand if your warranty were to, or your card were to fail and need RMA. This 3090 Ti right here, which we've only used for the review, now has a little bit more sentimental value, I guess, because I mean, I've never hid the fact that I'm kind of an EVGA fanboy. I've always been fair in my reviews. I've called them out when they've had problems. Remember with the 10, that's what this card is right here. This is actually a dead 1080. This is a GTX 1080 that suffered the VRM failure problems where the screens would just go black and the fans would go 100% anytime you went into 3D gaming. This is a bad card. I've always been a bit of a fanboy of theirs and I feel like kind of sad. Now I just have to be a regular fanboy of all graphics and not just any one brand. Anyway, there you go guys. I don't know what to say beyond the end of an era. 22 years of graphics comes to an end in 2022.